You're listening to the Esoterics Podcast, hosted by Joe Figueres and Fiorelise Franco.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
How are you today, Joe?
I'm great. I'm wonderful. How about you? Did you have a good holiday weekend?
Yeah, we took the kids to the California Science Center because they have a Maya exhibit. They have a bunch of artifacts on loan, probably from the Mexican government. So we got to go see all of that. Um, it's pretty mild, like that is the way I would describe it. Um, because it was funny because they had like a lot of things are clearly deities, like, you know, right? Like they're little figurines of deities, carved sculptures, etc., etc. But they don't name them. Like they don't, they don't tell you which one it is. It'll just say like, oh, it's like the goddess of fertility or whatever. And it's like, well, she has a name. Like,
Yeah, in
I,
a history.
yeah. And so I just thought that part was like, why don't you name her? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it was cool. It was cool to see. We also bought the tickets for the IMAX thing at the end. Like it's an IMAX movie, so like a
Yeah.
dramatized thing. And as per usual, it centers around the white settlers, colonizers that came and studied the people, which it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. Like that's the only way that we have information written down, because there's some fucking friar that burned all the actual Mayan codice books. But I digress. There's a part.
Well,
There was a
it's
part.
it's not hard to digress when it comes to that topic, right?
Yeah, no, it made me mad. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
part where one of these guys who's out there, exploring and documenting the Mayan pyramids and all this. And they show him like riding a horse at one point, and then he's being carried at another point, carried on someone's back, like in this chair contraption. And so
Mm-hmm.
me and Mike just look at each other and we're like, what the fuck is this? Why?
Right.
wh- You have a whole ass horse. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
who made this film? Who made
Right. We're writing somebody a strongly worded letter
Was
as
this
soon as we get
necessary?
home.
Was this necessary, or was this historically accurate? Because either way,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think that there is a trend toward hopefully with decolonization being such a big thing, and it's growing in popularity.
Mhm.
It's not really popularity, it's growing in importance is basically what's happening.
Yeah.
So hopefully things will start trending. Did you see the post that I put in the community, the esoterics community today, where they had like this psychedelic plant summit, right? And then, of course, who do they have right in the middle is Deepak. How many fucking times have you heard Deepak talk about plant medicines?
0 times.
0 times. Thank you. And I've said I'm open to being wrong. I don't follow him a ton.
Mhm.
I think Deepak's a down ass dude. He wants
Yeah.
good things for people, but I don't follow him, so I don't know. He might be, but there was like 6 white people, one brown lady, and then Deepak. So I'm like, hold on. That doesn't seem like,
Yeah,
it's probably a Hay House event or something dumb.
I don't know anything of Deepak being connected with plant medicines at all.
Mm-mm,
No,
mm-mm,
and
mm-mm.
I've read several of his books. I'm on his mailing list. Like that's not anything that he talks about or advertises. I've even seen his, $16,000 retreats or something. It's something unreal, but and more power to him. He's obviously built the audience for it, right? But no, it doesn't. It doesn't include any of that.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. So I was a little bit miffed. I'm like, why are all of these non-indigenous people the keynote speakers at this summit on plant medicines, on indigenous practices? It just kind of bugged me.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, again, I don't want to digress and get into bashing. You know, but hopefully it's gaining in, because it's gaining in importance and interest, that more of the actual users and facilitators that are indigenous will be brought to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do, like,
Yeah.
I have a teacher that I've studied with, and she's actively doing work, and she's a person of color, and she she's out there, like, actively, speaking at conferences and educating people, and she's done the hands-on work, and then now she's obviously sharing the information she knows. And so, yeah, no, there's people out there. I know the Ancestor Project is one of them. They're an organization that is run by people of color, and they do their due diligence to teach people appropriate ways. Integration is huge with them. They actually have guidelines, they have guides for you if you want to do like your own individual journey. They have like these
Hmm.
guidebooks that they have available for people that want to engage with plant medicines but don't have access to a teacher. Yeah,
Hmm.
they thankfully there are organizations out there.
Good. Good. Yay. Good. Good. And then, of course, we have a retreat,
Yes.
um, which, that's not global or anything, but it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're doing
Yes.
a plant medicine thing. It's coming up here in a couple of weeks. That's exciting.
Yeah. So for everyone that didn't
Hmm.
make it this round, stay tuned because
Hmm.
we'll have more coming in the
Hmm.
future.
More coming up. More coming up in pretty parts of the world,
Yeah.
or the U.S. definitely.
Yes. So how was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was good. I had two gigs reading here in Portland in person, at Psychic Sister, and then at New Renaissance Bookshop. So it was busy Friday and Saturday. But um, Sunday, I was like, there's so much of the city that I don't see, right? Because I'm busy, I'm doing things, and I wanted to see a sunset over Portland,
Uh-huh.
here on the West Coast. It's called the Gold Coast, and the sunsets are stunning, stunning. So I went to Mount Tabor Park, which is about 20 minutes away, and I had Hollis with me and everything. And I get there and they had closed it off part, so the rest of it was going to be a hike.
Hmm.
Well, that's great, but I didn't bring bug spray or anything, and I was like, I'm not going to get eaten up to see the
Ooh.
sun. So I really quickly Googled another high, place, because Portland is very mountainous. It's
Yes.
very hilly.
Hmm.
Um, I Googled another place, and that was another 20 minutes away. And I'm like, if I bust ass, I can make it. And I get there and I didn't make it. And the sun
Oh.
was already down. So it was a bummer. But and again, it wasn't super easy.
Uh-huh.
There was no mosquito issue, but there were lots of trees and but
Oh.
pretty view,
Yeah.
because it was dusk. So, you could still see things. But so it's a bummer. But, you know, one of these days I just need to go to the coast and just have a sunset and
Yeah.
just plan, that. So I'm like, all right, well, I wasn't able to, but it's now it's on the I got to do that soon list
Yeah.
still.
What time are your sunsets?
Oh, well, right now, I googled it and it was
Oh,
8:47
that's
was
late.
when yeah. So yeah, it's getting later. And the crazy thing is the other morning, last night, not last night, but the night before, I couldn't sleep.
Hmm.
So I was up. I finally got out of bed at 3 o'clock,
Hmm.
3 a.m. And I'm like, well, fuck, So I thought, well, if I do something, maybe I'll fall asleep.
Hmm.
So I did fall asleep I got back into bed about 4:30, and it was funny because I look up and I could see, after I turned off all the lights and I got back into bed, I could see it was starting to get light out outside. And I'm like, what? I haven't done that. Usually the last time I did that, I was because of alcohol. so, so, yeah, but yeah, sunset is at right now it's like almost 9 o'clock. So,
Yeah, it's late. It's late. Ours
yeah.
is pushing. It's like 7:50 ish, so it's like pushing 8 o'clock. But I know that like up in Oregon and up in the northern states that it sets much later. I know.
Why is that? I never heard of that. That's kind of weird.
Oh
Same
yeah,
sun, right?
yeah, but it's because you're so far from the equator.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense
Mhm.
because like whenever I go to Belize, it's sunset is like 6 p.m.
Yep.
regardless,
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't
and I'm
matter.
like,
It
what
doesn't
what is
change.
this shit?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
change.
Mm-mm. Oh, well, that's cool. I guess I never science, but
Yep.
yeah. Okay. How did your Reiki class go?
It was amazing. So I
Yay!
learned Karuna Reiki because
Karuna Reiki.
I've done Reiki 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
And Karuna Reiki actually only has the 3. The third level is technically master. And with this one I actually felt motivated to like I am going to do it all the
The
way to the
master.
master level, yeah, so I can teach others, which is the only purpose of achieving master level is to teach others, because I always feel like
Mhm.
there's like this weird hierarchy thing that happens right when someone's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Reiki master, and it's
Oh,
like,
please.
you know. And I'm like,
Right.
that kind of sounds a little like that's your ego's shedding a little bit maybe. um
The only person who needs to use that is our actual teachers.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you do get attuned to a few more symbols, obviously, as at
Which
the
are,
master level, right?
yep.
So that
So
you
that
can
you can
attune
teach.
others. Yeah, so that you can teach
Mhm.
others and you can attune others. That makes sense. But
Mhm.
anyway, so yeah, it was cool because with this one, because we had all done Reiki 3, it was a little bit more advanced teaching,
Mhm.
to the point where she would show us the symbol, and then she
Mhm.
would have us sit with it, in our minds, like have us do it a few times and sit with it in our minds and see what came through. And that was
Mm.
really cool because because it was like a psychic test, right? Of like,
Mhm.
what are you picking up on this? And like everything, I was like, well, I'll just write it down, whatever. And then
Mhm.
she would ask and I would say it, and then she's like, yeah, and then this is what it is. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And your teacher was Nicole, right?
Yes, it was Nicole
Yes.
Higashi. Yes.
Nicole, and she is the loveliest of the loveliest humans. So if you're in the area and you want to learn, check her
Yes.
out as your teacher. But she's very, very psychic, very psychic.
Yeah.
And, doesn't, not trying to call you out, Nicole, but you don't give yourself enough credit. So
Nicole's
yeah.
amazing. No, and you know what
Hmm.
I appreciate about her, and much like you in the way that you teach as well, is that you make things accessible. Like
Yeah.
you don't put things of like, oh well, you got to practice a lot, or like you got to do this really hard, like, or whatever. Like you
Mhm.
don't make things more difficult than they already are.
Mm-mm.
And she is that way. She's also though like just like really full of life and really
Mhm.
energized and funny, and so it doesn't even like
She's lovely.
the time just goes by so quickly with her. I couldn't imagine learning from anyone else. It was amazing.
Oh, see, now that is some high praise. Some very high praise. Oh my gosh. All right. So that's it. I'm going to fly down there and I'm going to learn Karuna Reiki from her.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
won't, but
I'll
I
teach you.
could.
I'll teach you.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Very, very cool. I can tell you that when I first learned Reiki, I wanted to learn Karuna and I didn't care because I don't care about Reiki. Um, but it's always been at the back of my mind that even though I don't like to practice Reiki,
Mhm.
I definitely want to be a Karuna practitioner.
Yeah.
So it's more heart centered Reiki, correct?
Yeah, it is. I felt like it was just deeper. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to describe it. But yeah, I think yeah, heartfelt, I guess would be
Mhm.
the right word. It was cool though because I got to use it the day after, because the next
Yes.
day was when I had the cacao ceremony. So I did it on, the people in the group and stuff. So it was great. It's
Did
perfect
you
timing.
notice a difference in the energy that you were channeling?
I felt like it was more, how do I say, like it allowed for more of a release, I think, like of what was going on. It just
Hmm.
allowed more flow. Even the other signs that were coming to me as I was like, I would start with one,
Hmm.
and I just felt like called, like, okay, now we're gonna do this one.
Hmm.
And I just felt like it was just faster.
Hmm.
Like everything with like the messages and everything were coming in through more
Hmm.
quickly.
Nice. Very nice. I love that. So yeah, uh, cool beans. Can we give her a little plug?
Yes.
Say
So
her name and
yeah,
everything
so
again.
her name is Nicole Higashi, and you can find her. I know she's on TikTok, but she's also primarily on Instagram. And it's her Instagram name is Higashi Healing, Higashi
Give her a
Healing.
follow. Give her a
Yeah.
follow. And if you're in the area and you can take a class with her in person, you will love her.
Yeah.
She's a lovely, lovely, sweet, wonderful soul. So, yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so not like spiritual connected. So we talk a lot about like what we watch with TV and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
really sad because for some reason all the shows that we started watching, they're all ending.
Like what? Which one?
So Ted Lasso ended. We just
Okay.
watched the last
Oh,
episode of Ted Lasso.
is it just the series finale, or is it just a
Series.
season?
No.
Shut up. Okay,
Yeah.
don't tell me, because
No, I'm not.
I'm only
I
on like
won't.
episode 3.
No
Okay.
way. I won't ruin
Oh,
it.
Ted Lasso.
No, I won't ruin anything for anyone. But no, yeah,
Okay.
Ted Lasso's over. And then also we
Oh.
finished Barry. And that was also
Oh
the
yeah.
series finale
Oh
done.
yeah. Okay. Bye,
And then
Barry.
we actually finished the last episode of Miss Maisel.
Oh yeah. I heard everybody's mad about that one, or sad about that one.
I know like Mike and I had like a difference of opinion. He said he didn't really like it as much. Um the only thing I had to add to it is like I wish that they had given more about her daughter, because they like showed
Yeah.
the first episode of this last season opens up with her daughter.
Yeah.
Um and there's some more parts of it in her when she's little, when Maisel's dad discovers that she's like, so okay, so Maisel's dad at some point says that there's like a genius in every generation, and he's dead set that it's her son.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like doing all these things and they try to teach him music, and this kid does not care. He's like,
He's
no.
like, meh,
And
meh.
then walks into the room one day and she's just playing a symphony on the fucking piano. And she's like 4 years old. And so he's like, oh, it's her. And so he
Mm-hmm.
starts like nurturing her and doing it. But I wish that there was more of that. Like, that's the only thing because it was basically one episode where that happened and then it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
dropped.
Oh, that's a bummer. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you recommend watching it?
I still recommend watching
this
it.
episode. Okay.
Still, I mean, I love the show. Just everything from the writing, the costumes, yeah. I just think that there's probably only so much time to squeeze everything in to 1 hour episodes.
Yeah. 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 Succession ended, and listen, these people are not amazing people. They're
Uh-huh.
fucking shit show people. But I was ready for it to be done. It was a great show,
Uh-huh.
great acting. Oh my god, Kieran Culkin, he plays Roman, and he's just an amazing actor. And Roman was such a unlikable yet likable character. It was really good. But man, they just beat it with a dead horse. Just sometime, and I was like, all right, I'm done with these people. I'm ready for
Mm.
them to be over. So I'm not sad that it's over. But it was a good show. It was, but I was ready. I'm like, done. Yeah. Yeah. This is the season now where all the good shows are ending. But you know what? Right? I'm gonna be all Pollyanna here, but that just leaves room for new shows to come
It's true. It's true.
in. But still, it pisses you off, right? I'm still mad they canceled Buffy.
Buffy
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They
from
didn't
like
cancel it. They wrapped it up.
like 1998, or did they redo? Did they do a
Mhm.
reboot?
They did. Well, the series, right? It was like seven seasons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna confess that I never watched it.
Well, I'm not surprised. We don't really have the same taste when it comes to shows and movies. Yeah, well, we've established that.
Yeah.
that-
Oh, I
I mean,
think
we like
like
some of the same things.
we overlap on comedy, I think.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
But again, like I had a friend, my friend Richard, who was my friend through like middle school and part of high school, was obsessed with Sarah Michelle Gellar, like obsessed with her. So I as being a good friend would always, indulge him in that. Like
Mhm,
I would
mhm,
listen and we would talk about it and stuff, even though I had
mhm,
no idea what was going on Buffy. But
mm-mm. No, and what year were you in design school in LA?
2005, and then I went back in 2010.
See, Buffy, that's the same time that was. Now, if I were you, I would have been stalking her in the
Oh,
whole set, all of them.
is that where it took place, or is that where?
Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, but yeah, it did. It was filmed in California because the show took place in quote unquote Sunnydale,
Oh,
California, which was, basically just one of those small towns out in the middle of the desert. Not
mm-hmm.
not even really small town, but yeah, yeah, because they would always have side, trips or whatever into LA.
Mm-hmm.
Like Angel moved to LA. That was a spinoff and everything. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, all your shows are ending. I'm sorry.
I know, it's tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How are you doing with this like moon energy, astrological movement thing? What's how are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm still dealing with processing and integrating the eclipse energy.
Uh-huh.
But for me, I'm not struggling with any of these moon. This moon is really actually, it's either going to be really, really, people are really, really going to get a lot from it and they're going to be like, yes, or it's going to fucking suck for some people. So
Yeah.
it's fine. I'm not really struggling with it. Thank God, because I have other shit that I was struggling with. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. What about
So,
you?
okay, so I'll be honest, I haven't really looked into what the current transits are and what they mean or
Right.
what they could mean. Like
Right.
I honestly
Right.
haven't done it, but I know that I've been struggling recently with parenting.
Oh.
And I've it, I think there's this like misconception that people talk about like raising girls versus raising boys. And I don't think that like gender really has that much to do with it. I think what it comes down to is just that every people are different, like, and personalities are different.
It's
And some,
personalities, yeah.
yeah, and some personalities are, like just like friendships are, right? Like they're just easier
Mm-hmm.
to be friends with or easier to work with or whatever than others. There's
Mm-hmm.
some that are just going to be more challenging. And where I always heard like, oh, that, girls are easy when they're small and they're more difficult when they get older. And I just don't feel like that's been my experience at all. And I
Mm-mm.
understand like why would people would say that, right? Hormones, our hormone changes as
Mm-hmm.
teenage girls, like we're really intense and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the girls, I don't feel like they've been because I've been able to connect with them. Like I know what it was like to be a teenage girl, so
Right.
I can give them the things that I didn't have. I can give them the space that the privacy that they
Yes.
require,
Mm-hmm.
and also speak to them in a way that offers some kind of discipline, but without like without being hurtful or mean or
Right.
whatever.
Right. Well, and you've said many times how much you actually enjoy spending time with the
Yeah,
girls. I
I
mean,
I
all of your
do.
kids, but you
Yeah,
you really enjoy them as, if they were your age, you guys probably be friends.
yeah, yeah. I feel that way, and I feel like where I'm struggling right now is with my son
Yeah.
because of, I mean, one, he's 11, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a funky age, and I know it's a different
Mm-hmm.
age for boys. Where I feel like for my daughter, it wasn't 11 wasn't hard for with us, but like he's in that age of like all he wants to do is play video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to like just make conversation with him, and I just feel like it's a Q&A. And I'm the type of person where like if I feel like I'm the one working in a conversation, if I'm the one asking you the questions and all you're giving me is short answers, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that when it's your kid.
Right. 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 And also, teaching them too that, communication is a two-way street, so there's that need to be like, okay, listen, I need you to understand what communication is and what we're doing right now is not, right? But
Hmm.
then you turn into, sort of I listen, I would not want to be a parent at all. I don't want to parent kids. You know what? I want to be able to tell them when they're being jerks or
Right.
have fun with them, but I don't want to be responsible for instilling values and shit in them.
Yeah, dude. I had this thought the other day of like parenting is one of the hardest things I think you could ever sign up for,
Yeah.
because you're not just responsible for raising a child and trying to
Mhm.
keep them alive and, healthy
Mhm.
and all this stuff, but also the learning who they are and their personality, and like working with that and making adjustments in yourself. And that's where I feel
Mhm.
like that's what happens with him and I, is that he's a
Mhm.
mirror to me
Mhm.
in so many
Mhm.
ways. Like, I have to check myself in the tone that I approach him, because all he does is match me. And that's
Mhm.
not him doing anything wrong necessarily, because I'm the one that started it.
And you're showing him, right, the
Yeah.
quote unquote way to
The
be when that's
example.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you pulled his human design by any chance?
No, I'm gonna have to. I just
Yeah.
know his astrology, but I have not pulled his
Yeah,
human
pull his
design.
human design because it's how he reacts, it's how he digests energy, and I mean, I would get, if you have an opportunity, if I knew enough, I would absolutely like let's do a reading on him, and so I can tell you, blah blah. But I don't know enough about that. But I know that just knowing probably his strategy, how he takes energy in, and then what his tells are, right? His not self theme, which would be
Mhm.
anger, frustration, or whatever, and then also some certain other things would be really helpful because then
Yeah.
at least if I approach him this way, he's typically going to react this way because that's his natural tendency.
Yeah.
You need to get maybe a little bit more creative. I would assume because think about that's like in the business world, right? Let's say you're a manager and you have, a type A, a type B. You have to approach the type A differently than you have to approach the type B,
Yes.
but both need
To be approached.
management.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to be approached. So, yeah, another reason. Kids are a lot of fucking work.
They
Kids,
are.
no,
Yeah.
that's why I like being an aunt
Yeah.
because when
And
they start to be work, I'm like, no, I'm out.
yeah, it's a lot. And I was really upset a couple days ago about it too, because I started thinking, and this is me, like, and this is where we go into storytelling, right? And we like hurt our own feelings because we're, we start to make stories up. But like, I'm thinking like how he, when he was little and he was so sweet, and we were really close, and just, he would come into the bed in the morning on the weekends, and he
Mm-hmm.
would cuddle, and just like having that time with him, like, was really special. And I remember being in that moment and thinking like, I'm going to appreciate this because I know it's not going to last forever. But then just like
Yeah.
coming to that realization of like, ugh, like, it's probably gone. Like, that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, cuddling in bed that might be gone. Okay,
Yeah.
but I mean, okay, so as somebody who has only known him for a little while, he's a cool freaking kid, and I have sometimes like when I sit down and I actually talk to him, the conversations are very enjoyable and he cracks me up.
Hmm.
And he's a kind kid and
Yes.
he's empathetic and he's funny and he does listen.
Hmm.
Um and so that's who he's going to be as an adult too. So I think you'll get that back but in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right now, it's just, I feel like I struggle to connect with him, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing wrong.
I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think 11-year-old boys are little fucking assholes. Plus, all they care about are video games. They're probably their hormones.
Yeah. Yeah.
They stink. They don't want to clean anything. They're
Seriously. Oh
lazy.
my
They're
god.
honestly, I'm not even a mom, and I fucking know that they're little assholes. So I'm not saying he's an asshole. I'm saying 11-year-old boys are assholes.
Yeah, the hygiene thing. I'm like,
Ugh,
yeah.
right.
So anyway.
They take forever in the bathroom.
and,
Like what in
and
the hell?
and that was the thing that I was telling, that was why I was having a conversation with Mike this morning, because we were talking about like, well, the girls kind of went through that phase. Like, I remember having to tell Sophia like, you have to take a shower. But then at one point, they just realized like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like when they started liking boys, or when things changed, they just
Mhm.
became, I think there was this moment of self-awareness that happened
Mhm.
of like,
Oh, hygiene.
oh, I got to take care of myself. Like,
Mhm.
I want to look pretty. I should also probably smell good.
Mhm.
And and now like, you can't,
Mm-mm.
you can't tell them they can't take a shower. Like,
Mm-mm.
they will flip their shit. They're on a schedule. But with boys, I'm like, we when Mike and I were having this conversation, we're like, there are men
Yes.
that never clicked for.
It's true. It's true.
So we got to
Mhm.
make sure that that
Yeah,
doesn't happen, that we don't wait, wait and wait, and then next thing you know
right.
he's 30 years old and there's like a
Right.
gross corner of our house that he lives in.
And hygiene is absolutely tied to self-esteem after a certain point. It really is. How does Mike does Mike is Mike having the same struggle with him because they connect over baseball and all that good stuff?
No, I think it's more me
That's
than
just
him.
mama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cuz
mama and son.
yeah, cuz they have their baseball, cuz they have their
Yeah.
things that they do together, so he still has,
Mhm.
but I guess I just don't have an activity that I do with him right now. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the core of the issue, because even during quarantine, we were great cuz
Yeah.
we would play video games all day
Mhm.
together, and we would have snacks, and that was just all we would do. We would eat snacks, we would play video games, and it was just we had a ball.
That's how you connected. That's so cute.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I can't play video games with him all the time. And then now he's into VR, and it's just it's the one player thing. And honestly, it gives me a headache. It makes me kind of nauseous. So I
Mhm.
can't do the VR.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That it's a challenge, but I'm sure that there are, and I'm not good because I am like, oh well,
No, but
I don't
I
have
am
kids,
gonna
so
look at his human design. Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's a
But
good
there's
start.
probably other mamas out there that's struggling with the same thing. So please reach out to Fearlese in the group, in the community, and let us know if you're struggling with your
Or maybe you already
kid your
went through
age,
this. Like,
or you went through it.
yeah, what did you do? I want to know. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please,
please.
please, please help. Send help.
Help.
Mhm.
Help me.
Um, can I
So,
talk about
oh yeah.
my jewelry?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What's new?
So I changed the name of my Instagram jewelry account from Joe Figueres Studio.
Yes.
Standard, nice. But I realized that I want to grow my following. I want to grow it to be, really big so that I can, just get my name out there and, maybe get some opportunities. So I changed it to Mystic Metal and Stone.
I love it.
I do too. I really, really love it. It's so fun. And I want to thank my friend Laura, giving her a shout out because we were, brainstorming over ciders the other day. And she is, of course, a millennial. So, like you. And so, you guys are all very techy. And so she's like, well, let's put it into this new AI app that I have. Right. And I'm like,
Mm.
AI app? What are you talking about? And it threw back some really cool names, and one of the things was Mystic Metal or Metal and Stone or something like that. I'm like, well, that's already been taken, but then we just put our brains together, and um, you know, um, she helped me inspire me. So Mystic Metal and Stone.
Oh, so AI generated name.
Yes, yes. So please follow me on Instagram if you don't already. Um, and I'm gonna run a little bit of a fun thing with that soon. I'm gonna do a giveaway, a piece of custom jewelry, not an intuitively designed jewelry. We're not gonna go through all that, but I will make you a piece of jewelry. If you share, like, and all that stuff. But so watch for that announcement. It won't happen until after the after the retreat.
Okay,
So
great.
let's see. The other thing is if you registered for the Working with Your Akashic Record workshop, which was really fun. I loved it. All of you guys who signed up, thank you so much. It was wonderful. It was so much fun. Everybody was really engaged, and you asked amazing questions and all of that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That was great. So what I'm doing is I'm offering a follow-up reading for $100 off an intuitive development Akashic reading. So it's just 125.
Hmm.
If you didn't take the course, it's 225. But what it is, in this session, we'll connect with your higher self. We'll deep dive into a tailored intuitive development practice to help you build trust in your abilities. So it's perfect for the budding intuitives who you're gifted, you know what those gifts are, but sometimes you struggle with inconsistency, doubt, imposter syndrome, all of that stuff, you know. So I'll open your Akashic record. We'll connect to your higher self and your primary spirit guide who works with you to strengthen your connection to your intuition. They're also called like your gatekeeper guide.
Uh-huh.
And together we'll look at any past lives as a mystic, seer, healer, you know, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And we'll put it into practice for 33 days. And so it should be helpful. So it's a good price for intuitive development.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's a deal.
That's it. That's those are all the announcements I have. What about you? You have announcements?
I do. I don't have any ceremonies coming up that I'm doing in person, but I do have a meditation Monday coming up that will be June 8th at 9:30 a.m. We're playing with times here. So we're gonna
Yes.
see what works.
Checking them out.
Yeah, and then I'm going to do a Thursday night sound bath, and that will be June 18th at 7 p.m. And these are all at Raincross District in downtown Riverside. And those are
Mhm.
my only offerings for the group offerings for the month of June. And then I am doing in-person Reiki and remote, like online Reiki sessions as well. And you can find all of that on my website, furalise.com.
Nice. Excellent.
All right. So, what are we talking about today?
So, today I want to talk about the role that each generation plays in spiritual awakening. So, I think this is coming up a lot. It's coming up a lot in the Akashic records. So, I just kind of wanted to go through what each generation is. Okay. What is your role in helping the world evolve? So, Gen X, Zennials, Millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha, and
Uh-huh.
then even some of you baby boomers.
Hmm.
You are indigo children, you're crystal children, and you're rainbow children, and you all have a specific role to play. We all do. So, what child you are depends on your generation, and I'll get into that deeper. So basically, as I guess I'll just call us star children. So, as star children, we incarnated on Earth to help the ascension process. And that means fully embodying the special skills and abilities you bring to the world in order to share them with your community. Okay.
Hmm.
Why? To raise and transform Earth's consciousness to support the collective ascension and individual awakening. Okay. That's why. Now, as souls, you know, you hear this, you're exactly where we're meant to be, right? But right now, we can't deny that Earth is sort of a shit show. It really is.
Yeah.
We are living on a planet, it has a hard time, just existing. And it's our job as empaths, healers, light workers, in the awakened, to sort of understand our role and step into it. So I just thought this would be a fun conversation to have,
Yeah.
to figure that out. Okay, now here's the thing. Indigo, crystal, and rainbow children, you have a different purpose than a star seed. Okay. And I know that I use star seeds a lot,
Hmm.
or I talk about star seeds and stuff, but star seeds are different than star children. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We had an episode for anyone that hasn't listened to that. We did do this on episode 10, where we specifically talked about only star seeds and star children.
yes. Okay. So, star seeds have already ascended. Okay. They've come back to hold the higher vibrational frequency in place,
Uh-huh.
which helps humans take back their power.
Okay.
That's the star seed. But indigo, crystal, and rainbow children, our awakening is simply a remembering of our soul's plan.
Yeah.
And we're born during a very specific generation in order to live out a very specific purpose.
Hmm.
Okay. So these souls are here to help the earth ascend in very specific ways. And so it's all about remembering your soul plans. Okay. But here's the kicker. Okay. So these classifications don't describe where the souls come from. It's not your cosmic background.
Okay.
Okay. So for instance, I'm an indigo child, but my soul origin is Arcturian.
Okay. And you're an indigo child because you're Gen Xer.
Yes, but really because I have a blue-hued aura too, and each generation is different, but some overlap.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, So our soul blueprints reflect our purpose, but not necessarily our galaxy of origin, right?
Hmm.
So why are we called indigo, crystal, and rainbow children? Why? Well, indigo children have a blue hued aura, like I just said.
Hmm.
Crystal children have a crystalline aura. And then rainbow children are born with a rainbow colored aura. So you would be a crystal child, and you'd have a crystalline colored aura.
Okay.
And that's because you're millennial.
Okay.
Do you consider yourself millennial
Yeah. Yeah.
or Gen Y?
I'm definitely millennial.
Okay.
I'm an elder millennial, and I have actually
Or you're a
felt
Zennial?
no, no, no,
No?
no, no, because I'm 86, and the start for millennials is 82. So I'm a millennial through and
Mm.
through. Although sometimes I feel like I have more in common with Gen Xers.
Well, listen, but here's the thing. Don't get hung up on those dates, because those dates, I mean, I did my research on this,
Hmm.
and the dates are different every single time. There's no
Right.
steadfast dates. So what
Right.
we're going to do is ish dates, ish.
Yeah.
So really based on what the characteristics that we're going to talk about, you'll be able to get a better idea of what you are. But I'm not surprised that you identify with Gen Xers more, because of course we're going to talk about Gen Xers.
Okay.
Okay, but first let's start 100 years ago. Let's start with the silent generation. Okay.
Did you know that Joe Biden is the first silent generation president we've ever had?
I'm not surprised. How old is he? He's fucking like at least was he 80 something, right?
Yeah, but up until this point, the silent generation was the only generation who had never had a president.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, from that generation. Yep.
The silent generation. Okay, so they were born between 1925 and 1945. And so they're now like 78 to 98-ish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right. So this generation, they lived through World War II and the Great Depression. And these experiences really did shape many of their current attitudes, toward pretty much everything, right? They never fucking throw shit away. That's the thing that the silent generation. So, and listen, I know it's easy to blame those who came before us for the worldly woes we must all deal with, even though we have nothing to do with creating them, okay? But it's also important to recognize the positive traits that this generation, and all generations really,
Yeah.
the positive traits that they embodied. So, the silent generation, they're determined, they're resilient, they're all about rebirth and renewal. They'll sacrifice for the common good. And to their credit, their generation is the one that started the civil rights movement. So,
Okay.
they're the silent generation. They're an important generation, but yeah, they're also responsible for much of the trauma passed on to all succeeding generations. So let's not get too crazy with them, right? They raised the boomers.
There's a lot of racism in there. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I mean, fuck, right?
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the boomers, the next one is the boomer. Born from 46 to 64. They're in the 59 to 77-ish age group right now.
Yep.
And we love to laugh at and get pissed at the baby boomer generation. But hear me out, okay? This is why we get mad at them. This is my opinion on why we get mad at them. Because these fuckers lived through a period of affluence and cultural success, right?
Mhm.
They were raised in strict, religious, morally obsessed households. They are constantly landing us in the middle of the next crisis and the next war over bullshit.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Boomers can be critical, judgmental, and out of touch. They really are out of touch with the actual challenges of today's youth, today's young adults, and even the working class. They're out of touch.
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, your guys are lazy, and you're supposed to do this and hard work, and all that boomer bullshit. And they're just out
Pull
of touch.
yourself
It's
up
like,
by the bootstraps.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not how shit works these days. And here's the worst part about boomers is that they are the biggest voting demographic. And, they support policies that harm the middle and working class because they think you should be able to, quote, pull yourself up from the bootstraps. And they really have more of a value of a capitalistic society of like power and privilege over equity and quality. Yeah. They don't care about that.
Yeah, because it worked for them. Yeah, because it
worked for them.
Yeah, because it works until it doesn't work. And then it fucks you over,
Yeah, because again, like I said, they grew up in a period of affluence and cultural success where hard work was how they achieved affluence and success. But that's not what that's not how, and they just really do not like to change with the times. They're resistant, and they're, like I said, judgy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To top it all off, what really pisses me off about boomers is that they hold the purse strings for 80% of our political spending. So, right now, politics is an absolute shit show because the people that are running the show are freaking boomers.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're unwilling to let go. Yeah.
It's awful, right? Okay, now, but as much as I struggle with this generation, it's important to point out that a significant number of indigo children, because boomers are indigo children, okay,
Uh-huh.
to a certain degree, some of them,
Mm-hmm.
a significant number of indigo children who fall into that baby boomer category were born on Earth as scouts after World War II. Scouts. These scouts are here to be the anchors of consciousness, or the consciousness grid,
Mm-hmm.
and to position themselves sort of like in parts of the world or society where it would be the most critical and beneficial to humanity as a whole, right? So these scouts came on Earth to sort of hold that higher consciousness in place, or
Okay.
become like the stakes, right?
And that makes sense because
Yeah.
hippies, the original hippies from the 1960s,
Yes.
are actually boomers.
Yes. Yes. That's the hippie generation, the 60s. Those are the boomer scouts.
Yeah. And then, I mean, like Deepak, right? We mentioned Deepak
Yep.
earlier. He's a boomer.
He's a boomer. Yep. 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 A lot of these older spiritual leaders and stuff, they're boomer scouts,
Mhm.
or just scouts, right? So
Yeah.
they're like, we got to go to Earth, again, this was like way back in, like, the 40s, the late 40s to 50s, and
Mhm.
early late 50s and early 60s, and they said, we're going to go to Earth. We're going to be woo woo, and we're going to be spiritual leaders because
Yeah.
we need to start this whole spiritual movement. And that's really when
Right.
it started,
Right.
was like, like you said, in the 60s and 70s.
And so that's to
All right.
say, but probably like most, but not all. And that's going to be like a recurring theme for every generation, is that most are one way, but not all. There's always exceptions.
Yeah, there's always going to be scouts, always. But I'll get into the people that are not woke. There's a reason for it. There's very specific reason for it. And I've said this over the years, like MAGA, even though MAGA sucks, there's a very specific reason that these people are. And it's kind of cool, because at the soul level, we're all spiritual beings.
Mhm.
It's just that MAGA doesn't realize that they are, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you why when we get to them. Um, let's see. Here's the other thing about this silent generation. Never really taught the boomer generation how to express emotions in a healthy way, so they couldn't really teach them what they didn't know, and blah, 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 blah. So, but I think that a lot of the boomers that are sort of woke are
Mhm.
really tired of their own generational bullshit. So,
Yeah.
they do things to sort of help things along.
Yeah.
The next generation is Generation X, and Generation X are solid indigo children. Solid. Born from 65 through 79. I'm a Gen Xer. We are in the 44 to 58-ish age range.
Mhm.
During the 60s, 70s, and 80s through as late as even 92. What year were you born?
86.
86. Okay. So, see, you very well, could be a Gen X. And if that's what you jive with, then there you go. But even as through as late as 92, this huge wave of indigos incarnated on Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were born with all of the abilities, all the clairs. They were the first generation to openly identify as an empath. Indigo children are strong willed, independent innovators, and we are here to help humanity realign with its core truth by pushing back against established institutional order. That's what Gen Xers are here to do, and that's what indigos are here to do.
Yeah. And Gen Xers are also the first generation that decided they weren't going to have children. And I know that I'm sure there's boomers that like didn't have children as well,
Mhm.
but Gen X is the first generation that was like public, like,
I'm
nope,
not having
like
kids. Yeah.
no kids for
Nope.
us. And we're like, it was a very conscious decision of like, I don't want that.
Yep.
And according to like what Dolores Cannon says about this, is that the reason why Gen Xers decided to do that is because on the soul level,
Mhm.
they didn't want to continue their karma. They didn't want to anybody else to inherit their karma or to pass on any karma
Yeah.
through children.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I knew since I was little, I've always known I'm not going to have kids. I don't want kids. I've had zero interest in having kids. It's just
Mhm.
this, and I don't want that. Okay. Now, so to give you the best possible example of a Gen Xer, if you aren't, a Gen Xer yourself, or if you really like,
Mhm.
let me understand these Gen Xers. Here's a good example.
Yeah.
So there's a TikTok going around where someone asks, who let Gen X off the hook? Why aren't we talking shit about those guys? Okay.
Leave them alone.
In response, a fellow Xer succinctly replied, because, sir, we will fuck you up. And it's true, 100% agree. Like the TikTok lady said, we are not the bigger person. You'll want to leave us out of it. We are not the bigger person. And I've always struggled with that, especially being spiritual and, all of that stuff. It's
Uh-huh.
like, look, I'm not the bigger person. Petty is my favorite color. I'm just not. And so, and it does have a lot to do with, that our generation, we are innately
Yeah.
wired to push back and rebel. That's what we're here
Yeah.
for. And that's why I have a soul urge 5. And that's why you have a
Yeah.
5. Those 5s are the rebellious.
Yeah.
Um, my fellow Gen Xers, my friends, the people that I grew up with,
Mhm.
we are ambivalent, rebellious, obstinate, disobedient anarchists. We are the original disaffected youth,
Yeah.
and we seriously do not care in the least what you blame us for.
Yeah.
That's why boomers,
Yeah.
that's why Gen Xers sort of slide under the radar, because we're like, okay, well, we don't care.
Yeah. The other thing though that is explained by this, and I forgot what she called them, but it's kind of the same idea of scouts, right? But that everyone's here to raise the vibration, right? Like that's generationally, that's the whole point of every generation. The whole point of every generation is to do better than the generation before
Yeah.
them. But what happened was, as Gen Xers came along, and they are empaths, but they're so sensitive to other people's energy to the point where they don't want anything to do
Mm-mm,
with it.
mm-mm.
So they're just like, leave me
Yep.
alone.
I don't want any part of
Don't
this.
tell me what to
Mm-mm,
do. I don't want this is not for
mm-mm.
me. So this is like more introverts or
Mhm.
more like selective about who they keep in their company. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that, and it's because of that, it's because of the sensitivity
Mhm.
to the energy, they became almost too aware
Yeah.
of the energy in a room.
Yeah. But I also believe that Gen Xers are the generation that we have the strongest ability to have a voice and push back, and we don't, right? Because of that ambivalence.
Yeah.
Because look, does this affect me? How does this affect me?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't affect me, don't bring
Yeah.
me into it. And that's literally, I remember in high school, like our class, the class of 1987, we were blamed for, just not caring. And we're like,
Mhm, mhm.
what's the problem? We didn't understand. Like, I don't understand the problem. So I would say to anybody, um, to really understand who Gen X are, who we are, spend an afternoon binging a John Hughes Brat Pack marathon, or just watch The Breakfast Club. Because at the end of the movie, Anthony Michael Hall writes a letter to, the principal, and he's like, dude, we we don't understand your fucking rules. They don't apply to us. We're not going to follow them. What are you going to do? Basically, this is who we are. Deal with it,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
best. Now, I will say that when that rebellion manifests in the most negative way possible, it's because Xers often began life as traumatized children, right? We were raised by boomers, told, don't express your emotions. If you do, you're going to get in trouble. And
You're gonna get
then you're going to
spanked.
get
Yeah, they were
spanked.
they were the generation. Yeah, they were that generation. Yeah.
Yeah. And
They were also, it was both. It was like the extreme of like over disciplined but also latchkey
yeah,
kids. Like it was like the worst of both.
yes, we were I would come home and it would just be us. The parents hadn't come home yet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but there wasn't the fear either now, of being snatched
Mhm.
and, of
Mhm.
predators and all that stuff. Like there just wasn't, like, not like it is
Yes.
now. They still
Yeah.
existed, but it wasn't like it is now. So
Right.
these children, we grew into rebellious teens and then fear-based adults who believe that, now with the bullshit going on, that we believe our security is being taken from us by anybody who doesn't look like us, and the easiest
Right. Right.
example of that is really the recently convicted Proud Boys and Oath Keeper militia groups. Those leaders are Gen Xers. They rioted at the Capitol and they were convicted, both of them, both
Mhm.
were convicted, and one was sentenced, and we're waiting on another. So, they're Gen Xers. That's who they are. They're rebellious.
Yeah.
Um,
Even if it's rebellion in the wrong direction.
yes, but spiritually, is it really? And that's where we'll get into that, which is
Ah,
so,
yeah. Yeah.
yes. All right, so Zennials. Zennials were born from 75 to 85 ish, right? So this is why you
Mm.
technically could be, a Zennial, and they're in the 38 to 45 ish age range right now. In this generation, you are both indigo and crystal children, okay? Because this generation is
Okay.
on the cusp of Gen X and millennials.
Okay.
And it just depends on, your traits or your strengths or whatever, which one you
Mhm.
identify with. This is the micro generation. This is the generation of all races and all ethnicities, right? Because in this generation, interracial relationships with Gen Xers became less and less of an issue, right? Boomers very rarely integrated their race.
It was, yeah. Yeah. It
Because
was
Gen
just,
Xers were like, we're going to rebel against
it
any
is what
of
it
the
is.
norms.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
then comes these babies, Zennials had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. Their
Yeah.
generation serves as the bridge between the disaffection of Gen X and the easygoing optimism of millennials. I think Zennials are
Okay.
badass, right? They're like at the best of both worlds. The big difference between Zennials and the younger generations is that they experienced organic relationships before smartphone apps and social media.
Mhm.
And they know that returning to the pre-COVID way of life is not something that they're willing to do. It's the Zennials that push back on that. They're like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not, I had my freedom during COVID. There was a
Yeah.
wonderful, they know the value of, that work, that home, what's that called?
Yeah. Work-life
Work life
balance.
balance,
Mhm.
right? They know they're here. That's what they're here for. Zennials are here to
Okay.
remind us of the importance of a healthy work life balance. That's their
Okay.
primary focus. They know the
Okay.
value of technology to bring people together instead of driving people apart, but they also know the value of work home flexibility. They have the best of
Yeah.
both worlds and they're here to help us reach that happy medium. So, Zennials are the ones who are like, no, I'm not going back to the office. Fuck you. I'm going to go get another job. Yeah. Millennials are also Gen Y, Gen Next. Born from 80 to 94, 1980 to 1994. They're in the 29 to 44-ish age range. And this generation is made up of crystal children.
Okay.
They are spiritual teachers and gifted healers known for their incredible ability to embody their true light and divine purpose at all times. When millennials started coming up, that's when we started seeing, a lot of independence, because millennials were often born to overprotective parents for the sole purpose of mastering independence, being pragmatic, self reliance, all of that stuff. Millennials also typically prefer like this hands off approach. They're like, man, let people do their thing, let them make their
Yeah.
own way, don't
Yeah.
interfere. That's what basically millennials
Mhm.
are. And so that comes because they're teachers, they're spiritual teachers, they're gifted healers, all that stuff. This generation is going to be remembered for their collective sort of coming of age triumphs, right? As well as they are the first generation that started having conflict with the other generations,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I feel that like in yeah,
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. We were the ones who were like, "We'll fight all of you."
Yes, because you're like, what the fuck are you leaving us with? We've got debt. We can't,
Exactly.
boomers. Another reason boomers are like, go to school and, you get a college degree. And it's like, I can't afford to fucking
Okay.
pay back that
You
loan.
literally went to fucking college and it maybe cost you a couple thousand
Right.
dollars and we go to college and it's like we bought a
Yep.
house.
Two houses, three houses, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So millennials are like, fuck you and your ideology. That doesn't work these days. And that's why boomers are out of
Bullshit.
touch. And
Yeah.
millennials are like, nope, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
um they really really push back against this messy economy that they have to navigate in order to find their way through to their own personal prosperity and the ability to afford like the same lifestyle as their parents. Like
Mhm.
AOC, she is a perfect example of a badass, millennial. She's like, hold
Yeah.
on, we
Yeah.
cannot, this isn't going to work for us. That's why she's like, I'm progressive, I'm going to, sort of form. Bernie is a boomer scout. Bernie is like, can't do a Bernie impersonation, although I'd love to be able to do it. He's like, we're going to hold the grid for the people on the earth. That's my Bernie
My
impersonation.
my favorite thing is the all the industries and businesses that millennials have supposedly allegedly killed.
Right. I love that one too. It's like, really?
Okay, so I have a list.
Yes.
You
Yes.
want
Let's
me to tell
let's
you
let's look at.
some of my favorite ones? Okay, so number 1, cereal.
Why? How did they kill cereal?
I don't know, because sales must be down. Well, first of all, we probably realized that it's a bunch of
And
wheat
it's
and it's
sugar.
not good for you. Yeah, it's wheat and sugar, and the way that our GMO crops are here in this country, probably not the best thing to be putting in our bodies. So,
Dude, also,
there you
like Saturday morning for Gen Xers, we lived for cereal
yeah,
in front of the TV. Like that's what you did
right.
because right?
Because you had Saturday morning
Dude,
cartoons.
nobody
No,
understands that was life.
yeah, I know. Mike and I had talked about this all the time. Like that was his childhood. And by the time I was a child, there weren't free Saturday morning cartoons. You had to have cable. You
Cable.
had to pay for
Yeah.
everything, which is another point I need to make is that if you're poor enough growing up, you will experience many things of generations that don't really belong to your generation.
Right.
Like I know what a rotary phone not just is, but I've used one, even though that's technically like a 1970s thing. I know like old cars. Like my parents had a Chevy Nova, like a 76 Chevy Nova, something like that. And my dad also had a Chevy Silverado. So I know the old cars, like growing up in them, like living in them. I know how like you'd never want to get a finger caught in one of those old doors because you'll lose a finger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Dude, what else have they killed? What else is on your
Oh,
list?
casual dining.
What does that
Well,
even
it's
mean?
I don't know. I mean, it's not cheap to eat out. Like it's, you can't just go and have a meal for like $5 a person
Casual
anymore.
dining, though. I mean, do they mean like
Yeah.
family dining, like diners and shit? They're making shit up. What else is on that list?
Department stores.
Well, that's true because Amazon.
Well, because Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh, it's not
isn't
millennials and kill it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That that's technically a different
y'all are
generation.
getting blamed
Whoever
for
or what's
shit.
his name with Bezos invented Amazon, you can blame
Blame,
Bezos for
blame
that.
Bezos, right? I mean, and also
Yeah.
blame
Yeah.
inflation because I shop at Amazon now more than I
Yeah.
do going out because it's shit is less expensive and it's more readily available. If I can't find
Yeah.
it at the grocery store, I'm going to go to Amazon because it's going to be at my door now within hours.
Cable TV.
Well, I mean, you know what? No, now we have digital, so that's not even true.
But now we're like paying for like 6 different
It's
apps
stupid.
and we're probably paying the same amount if we would for cable. But I hate cable because I'd rather have something on demand than to have to sift through the fucking TV guide or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't even get me
Dude,
started
listen,
on
that
that.
TV guide though, I would open that thing up and plan my week. right? Like,
That you're
what am I
weak.
gonna watch? What's on?
Uh,
Bionic Woman. Okay, I gotta put that in there. Yeah.
yeah. American cheese, which I would argue is hardly cheese at
It's
all,
not
and it
cheese at all.
probably deserved to die anyway.
That's not cheese at all. That's group A carcinogens that are kind of creamy.
It's borderline
Yes,
plastic.
it's disgusting.
No. Beer,
What? This list is stupid. Beer is
alive and
yes,
well.
it's the
I think,
craft beer business is booming.
okay, I think the distinction is like regular beer versus craft
You mean
beer. I
domestic
think,
beer versus good beer? I think that's what the
right.
problem is. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Grocery store beer versus your
Yeah.
craft stuff. Motorcycles. Well, yeah, because we've had enough things going on in our life. Like we went through the Great Recession. We saw the Twin Towers fall. Why am I gonna risk my life on a motorcycle? No shit.
Uh, uh, uh,
I've seen enough wars and things, and I don't know. No, I'm good. No, thank you. Also, we're good with statistics. You know, the statistic is the average person lives 7 months after they get a motorcycle license. Yeah. No, thank
I think there's whoever wrote this is just bitter.
you. Oh, my favorite is diamonds.
Diamonds, well, okay, but
Yeah.
I mean blood diamonds.
Yeah. Oh, and golf,
Oh, fucking
which
I don't care about golf.
okay, here's my rant about golf, okay? Grass doesn't belong in the desert. So, I'm talking about Palm Springs, Palm Desert, and all their.
Goddamn grass.
And for all you Coachella people, I am talking about the Indio Polo Fields. That shit does not belong in the
Yeah,
desert.
and also the water that they have to use to water it is wasteful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And grass isn't native to like all of California. It's literally a European, it's a colonizer idea that was brought over here.
No, they're in
It is
trouble.
so yeah, it is so water needy. Like we have no business having grass. So, yes, die golf and also die grass. And but if you live in areas where you get plenty of rain, good for you. I think grass should be added to this list. It's not on this list.
Okay. Grass is added. Tangent. Thanks for taking us on down that road. We love it. That's a rabbit hole. You know, that's what we're good at. We're good at taking you down holes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. So millennials are and will continue to be the driving force behind the fields of technology, community, and economic reform.
Mm.
You all are highly sensitive, old, empathetic souls, and this demographic comes with a lot of karma to balance, typically more than the average indigo or rainbow child. So that comes straight out of the Akashic records. So typically, my clients who are in like the mid 20s to the mid 40s, range, come with a lot of karma. So some people will get, will have like one or two karmic lessons, but a lot of millennials will have like three or four, which is unusual. So, and it's not that you brought a lot of karma forward, but millennials, people that bring a lot of karma forward into this life, they're just trying to balance it because they're like, I don't need this shit anymore. I need to balance my karma and move on so that they can go on and do other things, as they become old souls. So yeah, it's very cool. Okay, Gen Z. You are rainbow children, born from 95 through like 2012-ish, and you're all in the 11 to 28-ish range. So you have yet or have not yet. You're about ready to go through your Saturn return. Rainbow children began arriving in the 2000s and are the third generation of children that have come to help humanity evolve. In some cases, rainbow scouts came to Earth in the mid 90s. And rainbow children have some really interesting characteristics. You are the children of early crystal scouts born in the 80s.
Okay.
They typically incarnate free of karma, instead of the millennials, they have no karma. And since they have nothing to heal and very little shadow to release, they naturally maintain that high vibrational energy. But here's the thing. People that come with a karma of 0, and I don't mean, well, if they have no karma, then you have what's called a zero karma. And that just means that you have to take everything that you've learned in all previous lifetimes and put it to use. You can still acquire
Hmm.
karma in this lifetime, but you don't have to balance any in this lifetime.
It also makes sense as to why that generation is also very quick to just accept people.
They really are.
They're just like, oh,
Yes.
the whole like pronoun
Yep.
question and the gender identities and all that. That generation is just like, oh
They're
yeah, like
very
that.
accepting. Very
I get it.
accepting.
Like that is what it is. There's like no
No,
pushback.
and that's what they're here to do, right? They've also
Hmm.
never lived a past life on Earth before, though that's not to say they haven't lived other lives in other different dimensions and different planets that could be
Sure.
equally as
Yeah.
challenging as Earth. But
Yeah.
that's why they struggle so much with being highly sensitive to harsh energies, environments. This is there's a lot of empaths, like everybody in that age range identifies as an empath. They're very gifted, soulful, beautiful,
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of thing. So that's the rainbow children. And also because the 2000s were sort of marked by like 9/11, the war on terror, the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, all that stuff. There's this ideology or this idea that came through the US was no longer safe, right? I mean,
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
Gen Z's.
That was the evidence they were shown.
Yes, yes. Well, shit
Yeah.
started popping off in our country when before, the biggest terrorist
Hmm.
attack was Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City. You know what I mean? And that was
Right.
a
Right.
homegrown, he was a homegrown, douchebag.
Hmm.
But Gen Zs are very, very sensitive and very socially focused. Most of them won't remember a time before, Obama's presidency.
Hmm.
They won't remember anything before that because the other
They were also born with the internet
they were
too.
born with the internet, right? With multiple digital platforms as opposed to any other generation.
Yeah.
That's what they come with. And they just come with more sensitivity, more compassion. They're very community focused, very
Yeah.
change oriented, very much so.
Yes. I see that. Yeah.
When we look back in history, Gen Z will be the most ethnically and racially diverse generation in history.
Okay.
And they are largely consisting of children of Gen Xers, who are the largest immigrant generation per capita in the 20th century. This, my
Oh.
friends, is what scares the white male supremacist patriarchy. Gen
Yes.
Zs
Yeah.
are the largest immigrant generation. And that's why right now we're struggling so much with supremacy. It's coming to the surface because these men understand that the white majority is slowly being changed to
Hmm.
again the most ethnically and racially diverse generation, and that scares them
Yes.
because it takes away their power because they understand it's what the Republicans are struggling with right now. We
Yes.
can't
Yeah.
continue this way without riling up people and making them afraid of brown and black people because we will
Hmm.
never win. Instead of saying, listen, we're not going to win, so we're going to change our policies. We're going to make them more inclusive. We're going to appeal to, now all ethnic and racial, instead of saying that, they're like, fuck that, we're going to keep in power, so we're going to create racial wars. That's what the problem
Yeah.
is. That's what's happening.
Yes.
So that's why I say the MAGA Gen Xers are quote unquote holding their unconscious or subconscious grid in place because they're doing it because we need to have MAGA people in order for the other souls, the souls that did sign up, and we'll talk about that a little bit further down, souls that did sign up and say, yeah, I'm going to go through the awakening process, the ascension process here.
Yeah.
But in order for them to go through the ascension process, there has to be that duality. So that's what MAGA people are.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. It's as above, so
as
below,
above,
right? And it's the
so below.
balance. It's
It's
polarity. It's
polarity.
part of the world we
That's
live in.
exactly
Yeah.
what it is. And there's a lot, and this has already been, we've already been talking for like an hour 16, so I won't get into all of it. I'm just going to touch on the really important things though, because it's
Okay.
good, important points. Um, all right, so the last generation out there is the Gen Alpha, and born from 2013, or just recently, through 2025. Anybody born through 2025, they'll be in the 1 to 10 age range.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
generation will care more about humanity and the Earth's issues than all of those before them.
Yeah.
Are the generation who will pave the road for true equality and harmony. These children will have soul origins from the more advanced star systems in the universe, such as Arcturus or Pleiades. Um, they also, because they share their birth years with things like the iPad, the video doorbell, facial recognition, streaming services, AI, they're going to be the most digital savvy generation. They're going to be
Yeah.
focused on family and future. They're climate advocates. They're
Mm.
passionate about inclusivity, and they believe it's important to see all types of people in all types of roles, occupations, and positions of leadership and power, which again is what scares, the old white patriarchy. They are the foot
Yeah.
soldiers who will truly pave the way for diversity and equity inclusion. Generation Alpha also is the first of its kind, and they're determined. They're like, yeah, no, this is what we're going to do. So they're going to save the world. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the ones that are supposed to make the most amount of change
Yeah.
generationally,
Yeah. So
especially
we'll look back and we'll
politically.
be like, look at them go. That's
Yeah.
especially politically. And that's why I said, we can build the wall, but Gen Alpha, and the
This is
other
going to tear it down.
generations, Gen
Yeah.
Z, you're just going to tear it down. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really quickly, now that we know a little bit more about each generation, I want to talk about, their help with actual ascension. Okay. So first off, what is ascension? That's
Mhm.
the path of those who are choosing to consciously evolve into a higher level of consciousness in order to expand into a brand new experience on life. It's called spiritual ascension, spiritual awakening. It's the process of shedding the old self, and experiencing this sort of inner rebirth. Okay. It's also about
Yeah.
merging with your higher self, transcending, old beliefs and all that stuff. There's two types of ascension. There's collective ascension and there's individual ascension. Collective ascension takes place with the collective and usually happens at the level of like soul group, soul family, all of that stuff. Not everybody who is awakening or ascending at the same time. So, since the earth is going through a major collective ascension, which is really unprecedented, it really is.
Mhm.
Some souls opt out in order to hold the grid for those currently awakening. So these souls have chosen to awaken and ascend at some point in the future for a couple of different reasons. So
Hmm.
in order to ascend, a soul needs to be willing to address and heal any traumatizing past events on earth, right? And this is why
Yeah.
anyone who is unwilling to heal their shit then takes on the role of holding the grid in place, so those hoping, willing, and planning to heal are able to experience that polarity that you talked about earlier, specific circumstances, right? And then holding the grid, what that means is just, we've got two grids. We've got I'll just call it the ignorant grid, the ignorant grid, or the unawakened grid, the
Yeah.
DeSantis Trump grid, and then we
Right.
have the ascension grid. And so those two
Mhm.
grids are the two different polarities. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, the other individual ascension, it takes place when the higher self of soul is ready, even if nobody else is ascending simultaneously. And that's when, individuals awaken. And that's why we might feel very sad and alone. And people are like, I need to find my tribe. I need to find my people because I don't feel like I have anybody to talk to
Right.
about
Right.
this. Right. And that's what's happening is, individual ascension. But individual ascension, like in your case, you also then open the door for others to follow you, because individual ascension, or people that ascend individually, also become teachers, mentors, leaders, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think that has to do with even just like bringing an awareness to other people, because some people have
Hmm.
never even like had the thought, right? Or
Hmm.
they're just kind of going through their day to day and never really taking the time to question their existence.
Yep.
Like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yep. Yes.
Until they see someone else who's like, maybe mentioned something or whatever, and it makes them curious, and then it starts something for them. You never know. You never know what kind of seed you will end up planting in another person.
Yeah. That's a star children or a light worker, or even a star seed, right? Can like plant that
Yeah.
soul. I mean, because we all have moments when we look back and we're like, that was the moment that things really changed for me when it comes to like
Yeah.
spiritual ascension or spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
And just to wrap all this up, that's pretty much everything that I know about the role we specifically play,
Hmm.
as different generations. But the thing is that ultimately humans, we all have a soul purpose, every single one of us. And if we
Yes.
connect a little bit more deeply, consciously with our own truth, we're going to feel that purpose a lot more clearly. And while we certainly learn from people who walk a little bit ahead of us, right? Those leaders, that
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
really have to do our own work, because only
Right.
we know what we need in order to, thrive as a human, and ascend and
Yeah.
all that shit.
Yeah.
That's as each generation sort of plays their own role individually. It's important for everybody to understand, what their purpose is, even the
Yeah.
unwoke,
Yeah. Yeah.
because as much as we think they're stupid, the rioters and people like the oath keepers and the proud boys and stuff, they
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
really truly believe in their purpose, and it doesn't condone it because they believe in hate. But that depth of passion is why they're holding the grid, and so they're actually really truly living out their life purpose, even if we don't agree with it.
Even if it's deeply rooted in fear. Mm.
Yes,
But
even if
it's
it's
that is right. It's fear is the opposite of love.
it is it is
Right.
it
And
absolutely
that's all
is.
it is people living so strongly in their fear of change, fear of others, fear of losing, whatever it is that they have, but
Hmm.
fear nonetheless. And that's what drives them. That's what drives the
Yeah.
the hatred and all the other stuff. And then
Yes.
so how do we combat it? Is okay, I'm not gonna go tell you to go love an oath keeper, but
Right.
you love yourself and you love the people close to you. And I think there's, if you want like some scientific addition to that, like the Maharishi effect, right? That
Right.
this is like an actual science experiment where
Spread
people
love.
meditated. Yeah, it spread it without them going out and talking to anyone, touching anyone, nothing like being directly involved with people, but just by sitting in a room and meditating for X amount of time, it reduced the crime rate in the area. And like, and this is a thing that it happens. And it just has that, it's the vibrational energy that you're putting out into the world.
100%.
And so it all starts with you.
It really does. It really does. And that is a beautiful thing, and it's been happening for a while. We can give
Hmm.
credit to the boomers, the scout boomers, the hippies of the 70s that started this, make love not war
Yeah.
type of energy. But this also is what it's this is how long it's taken. It took Trump to come into office to
Right.
for these to empower these other people, because he's not the brainchild. He's just he's not that
No,
smart,
he's
right? But other people
no,
are like, this is who we need, because he
he's
can
just a
sow
proxy.
hatred. So he's sowing the opposite of love. He's sowing the hatred. But
Hmm.
what they're doing is they're really just sowing fear. And they're saying, your way of life is in jeopardy because of these brown
Uh-huh.
people, and because of
Yeah.
the gay people, and because of trans people,
Hmm.
and because of it's all
Hmm.
fear based. And so, and it
Right.
works. They get their claws into these people, and it works.
Yeah.
And it's really, really
Yeah.
sad, because they just fight against their own self interests. They
Yeah.
really do. So, but anyway, so that's as star children and light workers and all that stuff. That's what each generation is responsible for. How they're here to help.
Yeah. And I would say my advice to just sign us off is, if anyone tells you to be afraid of something, I would question that.
Yeah. Right. Like, why?
Start with that.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah, because a lot of times when they're asked, well, why do you think like that? They either repeat talking points, and they repeat them poorly because they don't really know what they
Hmm.
fucking heard,
No.
or
Hmm.
or they don't. They're like, I'm not going to tell you. You can go look it up yourself. You know why? You know the
Oh
truth.
yeah, you
But
you
yes,
do your
I know the truth.
research.
But do you?
All right. Well, I love that topic.
Yeah, I know we could talk about it all night, really,
Seriously.
if it wasn't such a long one. Well, friends, that means it's time to say goodbye. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it on your stories. That is the best way to help us get seen, by sharing it on your stories. Subscribe, leave us a review, even send us an email so we can use that to create some marketing, just to fun, to get out there. It helps our podcast grow, and it helps us, bring you these weekly episodes.
I want to do a really quick shout out to Dre. She's been leaving us some wonderful comments and stuff and feedback on our Instagram post, and we just really appreciate you.
Aw, thank you, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay.
Thank you for hanging out with us today. Stay mystical, magical, and don't let anyone tell you what to do, especially boomers.
Bye.